We've got SalomFishbee and Astocalypse here to talk about crypto.
Oi.
Oi. So, what we wanted to talk about today was some of the value in the crypto space, because I think it's very muddy right now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people aren't getting the full picture.
Yeah.
So, like, the first thing we're going to talk about here is just crypto in general, and like mostly it's going to be the bull case and the bear case for crypto as a whole, and then some specific uses, like, for example, Splinterlands, which we're going to get into.
Right.
SalomFishbee plays Splinterlands. This isn't an advertisement for Splinterlands, but it has utility as a cryptocurrency and as just a blockchain technology.
Yeah. And to be frank, I'm more knowledgeable about it than anything else, so I'll probably draw the conversation back to it.
Right. We're going to keep circling back to that. And that was the whole point, is I wanted to bring SalomFishbee in here to talk about it because he knows a lot more about it than I do, and I'm interested in these kind of things.
And play to earn in general.
Yeah, and play to earn. And I'm spread all over the place, mostly in the stock market. I've paid less attention to crypto, but now that it's gone down, I'm starting to pay a little more attention to it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I think is really nice about crypto, is the mania has been let out of the space. When it got up to 64K, it was the whole, like, everybody's buying and it just keeps going up and you don't have to think about it.
The Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I blame that for the downfall of NFTs particular. And that feeds into this crypto crash.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about that a lot last time, how like the first three ones of those sold, they could have funded that Cryptoland project.
Oh, yeah.
That was ill-conceived, but like for the money of those three monkey JPEGs, they could have actually got that island, and
Yeah, but they wanted that money.
Yeah,
they were trying to. I mean, it's still going. It's you're buying an image, and what I think it is it's not cryptocurrency going into art. It's art coming into cryptocurrency to do the same thing they do in the art market. Because if you look at a graph of like,
and the art market is very corrupt.
It is. It's very extremely corrupt. But if you look at a graph of the art market and the S&P and crypto, the art market might even beat cryptocurrency over time. Maybe cryptocurrency's the top. I don't know, but the art market is way above the S&P.
No one knows.
Light years above the S&P.
Yeah.
Which is, there's another thing I want to look into, is some of those programs like Masterworks and some other ones where you can buy a chunk of art and hold it and trade it just like it would be a stock.
They do that with Magic the Gathering and Spider-Man #1 and these kind of things now too.
The whole, are you talking about the cards, or are you talking about a universe based on all that stuff?
No, you can own a percentage of a Black Lotus or Spider-Man #1 or Superman #1.
I see. So rare comics, rare cards, things that are valuable.
Mickey Mantle, 52 tops.
Interesting.
You can go to 10th of it.
See, I didn't know about that, but that makes sense, because if they're doing it for art and other things, why? Because you can do it with real estate too. So why? It's probably going to go to everything. That makes sense.
That's what the legitimate timeshares are, where you actually own a 10th of the property.
Yeah.
But as opposed to the stuff they try to sell you in the casinos in Vegas, I don't think you own that.
No, you're renting a piece, and you're forced to hold for so long. No matter what, you only get your little time every year. So each of us has a list of some things that we wanted to talk about. I think the first thing we should talk about, let's see, the bull bear case for crypto. Okay, so just for people that don't know, a bull case means that you think something is going to go up in value. A bear case means you think it's going to go down. You're bullish or you're bearish.
Right.
Let's start with the bull case. So what, in your mind, is the bull case for cryptocurrency in general, not just Splinterlands?
Crypto in general. Ultimately, I think we're in a phase right now where we're kind of cleansing out the chaff. That's the wrong expression, but...
No, I get what you mean, though.
Right. We're getting rid of the altcoins that are based on nothing and are going to do nothing and will never be nothing. All the NFTs that were bought during that boom that have no utility or functionality are becoming worthless, while the ones that do have some utility are surviving, slowly.
Right.
So that, to me, ultimately is the bull argument, is that we're at the low now. And that there's nowhere to go but up, because it's going to be the bad projects are going to lose, and then the things that are established like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I believe Splinterlands with SBS because it's a good game, BAT because it is a functioning web browser and pay program, those things are going to float up. And the stuff that was never legitimate product's going to die, and that's going to be what causes the next bounce.
Right, because that is the unfortunate side of crypto is there are a lot of scams. There are a lot of coins that do nothing.
Right.
People just trying to cash in on the mania, which did work for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point where you could pretty much buy anything.
Yeah, Kuma Inu, so the one named after One Punch Man, the Tiger coin, like all those could have made you rich if you bought them at the right time.
Right.
You know,
but they were scams, and they're going to get rug pulls. I don't know about those specifically, whether they were scams or not. I'm assuming they were because you listed them there, but I'm not familiar with any of them.
I still have some Shiba Inu. I made a couple $100 off Shiba Inu.
I have Shiba Inu too.
Yeah.
It's now that it's on Robinhood, I just bought like a little bit of it.
I bought a little bit more when it was on Robinhood. I bought on Weeble when they listed on Weeble. I told everyone who would listen, I'm like, you can get $1 million, or you can get 1 million of these for $7. Like, you know what I mean? Anything,
wow.
Yeah.
I got like 100,000 for what, like $10 or $15. So that's been, it's gone up quite a bit. Because I remember that, right? When you got into trading, that was the thing you were telling me. Actually, I had never heard of Shiba Inu. You informed me about it. And I was like, I got to look into this. And then it went up and I missed the boat and you made a bunch of money on it. And I was like, oh, dang, I should have listened to Salom.
Yeah, but a couple $100 off of like $30. Like,
hey, you know what? That's good. Like the same with Doge. I put like $50 or $60 into Doge a long time ago, and that turned into $1,000 after a while. And it would have been way, way more, but I had taken some off the table. And I didn't just stay. Okay, so it wasn't just 50. Like it started with about 50, and then I added later. Yeah. I'm realizing I also took that 50 cost basis after I'd already sold things from it, so it was probably more than that. So I probably had like 100 or so, maybe a little more than that. But anyway, at the time, I had like 35,000 or something Dogecoin, and when it went up to like half a penny, or it went up to a penny. That's when I dumped most of it, because I was like, I've been waiting for this to go to a penny for so long. It was like 2 or 3 years, and I got it. And of course, that was just the beginning of the pump. It ended up going to like 70 cents or something, 74 cents.
Yeah, 67 or something. It was the highest.
It was
hourly.
High.
Yeah, I mean,
it was high.
I think it was plus 70. Yeah, no, I had some that I bought at like 4 cents and sold at like 35, and then I bought some more at like 24. Not a lot, but it's just like sitting there. It's just sitting there going down. It's only like $2 worth or something.
No, I started buying again in the 20s or 30s, and it's been going down. So I just, I didn't put much into it because, like, basically, I got really lucky when it was up at like 64. When Bitcoin was up at 64,000, I thought, okay, this is really high. Something doesn't feel right about this. I need to get out of it. I know the mania keeps going, but like, and I didn't have much left, so I got out of it. And literally the next day was when the drop started to happen. That was the best timing I've ever had on anything. So I got lucky, but I started buying on the way down. So now I'm under on every crypto position. Although I didn't put much in there.
Part. Except for Splinterlands, but yeah.
Which is good. Like that's the thing right now. Like in a buyer's environment, things are going down. So you want that environment to buy so that you can keep adding to your position. And it sucks because you're losing and you keep thinking to yourself, oh, if I had waited and started now, I'd have so much more. It's just, you're not going to get that. All right. You're not going to be that good. Like that me timing the market at the absolute top, like the day before it dropped, was so lucky that it's not funny. I mean,
it happens, but I mean, you can't count on it happening every time.
No, and really, like, you should never count on it ever. Basically, your idea, what you should shoot for is like somewhere in the vicinity of the higher point, not the top, not close to the top, just somewhere on the uptrend. Like when things are looking like they were last year and stuff was just going up, like it's probably not good to just sell it all at once and be like, oh, I'm done, because I did that a couple of times. Some other people did that. It doesn't work. But sell a little over time. Right. When things are going up like that, if you want to sell it, I mean, if you want to hold it, then just hold it. And you can keep buying even when it's going up. But if you want to get rid of something, make sure you sell it in a bull market. Sell a little bit at a time as it's going up.
And if that's your strategy with crypto, you should find a way to stake it. If your strategy is just to buy and hold, you should find a way to stake it and get some return off of it.
Okay, so that's a good point. Like to talk about that for a little bit.
Well, again, most of my knowledge with staking comes in Splinterlands, where they give you like an APR for staking their coin SPS, but there's a lot of other places. I think Gemini does it Coinbase might, where you can just buy the crypto and then like stake it, so it basically becomes like a dividend stock. It just pays you out a little bit of interest in whatever. All of them have different things. Sometimes it's whatever you stake, sometimes it's a different coin, sometimes you can choose and get it in like Ethereum or whatever.
Right. See, that's a benefit with the cryptocurrency market, is the fact that you can use your money, is the fact that you can gain interest on your money.
Right.
With stocks, there are some things that are kind of like that, but mostly you're looking at either returns from growth or returns from dividends.
Right.
Right. And those are nice. You know, it's good to look into that. But with crypto, you're making money in so many different ways. You can make money from the price going up. You can make money from staking it.
Right.
You can make money from loaning it out, too. Like, I think that's another thing people have been doing, is that they're loaning their crypto out for a while. They're getting a little bit of interest on it. And then after a certain time, they get it back.
Right.
Which you know, is basically what brokers are doing with shares for short sale.
So
where were we?
We got a definition of a bull. I think I did okay on the bull case for crypto.
So was that it? Did you have more for the bull case? Basically, you were saying that your bull case is that the chaff, quote unquote, has been weeded out of the market.
Right.
It is being weeded out of the market, because that's true. The people that came in that don't understand it and don't know markets and trading in general are getting frustrated with the constant down move of crypto, seeing their investment get cut in half, getting cut in half again. So those people that didn't know what they were doing, putting too much in, they're leaving. And they have been for a while, because the pain's been going on. I mean, to me, this is like fine. I'm not worried about anything because I wasn't heavily in at the start of the year. But like most people that are in that space and are new are hurting. So that's a good thing. You're right, because those are the people that cause the crazy mania. And we need those people to be out so that once everything is reestablished, they can come back in and create another mania. So that is one thing. So do you have more for the bull case, or is that it?
I mean, I think a lot of... I follow Ethereum more than anything else, and the guys I watch for technical analysis, most of them are saying we're like at the bottom. Like, no, most of them aren't expecting Ethereum to dip much under 1,700. Maybe it has tonight. I don't know what it's at this moment, but the last I checked, it was like at 18 or something.
Yeah.
So I think we've hit probably like the projected bottom on most of the major cryptos.
That depends upon the external factors at this point. I think
it doesn't mean they can't go below that.
No, yeah, you're right. But I think when you say the bottom, like I agree in the sense that I think we're towards the bottom. I don't know if we're at the bottom yet, because we still, as we've been looking at with the markets, there's still so much uncertainty with interest rates and supply chains, et cetera, and inflation. So that is going to weigh on crypto. What's funny about that is crypto is supposed to be a hedge against all that stuff, but most of the big players in the crypto space are heavily invested in all these other spaces, so they're selling their crypto to cover this other thing. And everything else is going down. And then, of course, once the price starts to go down, all the smaller people start going, oh, I got to get out. Yeah. And that causes a cascade, which is what we're seeing. Yeah. So, like, what I'm wondering is how the markets in general are going to do over the next 3 months. Because the big thing, like right now, we're at the very beginning of June, and we have 2 more interest rates that we know of coming up that are going to be at least 50 basis points, maybe more. And then we have most of the Fed saying, all right, we're going to hit it really hard, and then we're going to see what's up in September. Like, September seems to be this month that they keep repeating over and over. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for everything. I want to see this little section of the year clear out, because the inflation problem has gotten so bad that they have to act more so than they thought. And that is going to, even though crypto is supposed to be a hedge against that, and I think one day it actually will be a hedge against that. Right now, it's still beholden to the market and everything. So that is going to probably hurt it. So my thought is, if the market keeps going down, then we're not at the bottom yet. Yeah. Like, Bitcoin, to me, if I'm looking at support levels and like areas where a lot of people bought in, like a lot of shares changed hands, in that like 8 to 13K range, it has a huge amount of volume. That was where a lot of people sold from the very low of the last bear market in crypto, because it kind of peaked out right there for a while. So that's where there should be some support, and there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, this is where I bought in. If it gets down there, I'm going to sell. My other friend who recently got into investing around the same time you did, he has told me that multiple times. He says, if my investments get to where I put the money in, I'm taking out. And
seems like a bad strategy.
It is a bad strategy, because that's the thing. You have 2 options, right? You either sell early or you don't sell at all.
Yeah.
So but if you really think that the market's done, and you really
I think the best strategy is both. Like, you you sell and take the profits, and then if you still believe in the thing and you really are scared it's going to moon, you hold a couple shares.
Yeah, well, that's what I did with crypto. Like, I never got all the way out of crypto, except for that time, when it hit 64K. I would always, every time I sold a chunk of my shares, I made sure I kept some, because I thought, if this really does moon, I want to have at least something.
Right.
Because there were times in crypto where if you just put $20 into it, that $20 would have turned into thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
So if something like that happens again, I want to make sure I at least have my, like, $50, $100 in there.
I think it will. It's just a matter of when. Like,
I think it's very possible that I could too, honestly, because it every time, if you look at the long-term chart of Bitcoin, you could see that this pattern happens over and over. There's a big pump for like a year or so, and then there's this big drop. Everybody hates it. Bitcoin's dead. There's actually a website that's like, or a blog or something that's like bitcoinsdead.com or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the real address, but it shows all the articles of, from the past 10 years or longer when people were declaring Bitcoin is dead. Right, 2013 it was dead. 2015 it was dead. Every single time, and it keeps going. That's the whole point, is to show you that like the thing continues to go.
Yeah, I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are definitely tied together, and I think like maybe a little too much to make sense. Like, I think Bitcoin not doing well because of potential financial instability is a bad sign. I think it's like par for the course for Ethereum. You know what I mean? Like, to me, Ethereum's like a bet for the dollar or the economy, and Bitcoin's should be more of a bet against it. But it is weird, like you're saying, is that it is dropping now with, the turmoil.
Right.
Like, and it's pumped in those situations in previous incidences, right?
Yeah, it has it sometimes, but okay, so that's a good point that you brought up, actually. The fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum are different projects, however, they trade in tandem.
Yeah.
And that's because cryptocurrency right now is tied to Bitcoin. No matter what your thought is about any altcoin, the reason that Bitcoin rules the crypto market and everything follows it, and the reason that everything else is called an altcoin besides Bitcoin, is because Bitcoin has the clout. Bitcoin has way more adoption than anything else as far as investors and, I guess, currency usage. Ethereum has a lot more projects using the blockchain and that aren't currency related. I mean, Bitcoin is basically supposed to be just a currency. And the whole point of it was that it was supposed to be a hedge against the market. And for a while, it actually was.
Right.
Before it was popular enough to be in the mainstream, people that believed in it were going into it. And yes, it was volatile. Yes, it was being traded. Yes, there were scams. I know. But the overall thought about Bitcoin was that fact, the fact that it was supposed to be a hedge. So the fact that it kind of took the main spot and had everybody invested in it before everything else makes everything else look like a copy of it. That in the eyes of the average person that doesn't understand blockchain or doesn't understand crypto, even as well as we do. Like, we don't know...
Even some of the upper hedge fund guys.
Right.
That don't really understand what the potential of the blockchain and these things are. They look at, they're like, everything's secondary to Bitcoin because Bitcoin's, number one.
And if you look at how much money people have made off of Bitcoin, people have made way more money off of Bitcoin by a long shot than any other crypto.
Oh yeah.
Even though Ethereum is really the second rung. Like, you got Bitcoin, and then the next one's Ethereum, and then there's everything else. That's actually how it works. There's literally those two at the top. There's first place, second place, everybody.
Ethereum's the only thing that can say, no, we're not an altcoin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because they started as an altcoin, but they're their own thing. I mean, and some people are still going to consider them an altcoin.
Yeah, it's
because
debatable. It's a debate.
Yeah, no, I don't think they are. I think they're their own thing. I actually think they're a match for Bitcoin in certain ways, but they're accomplishing different things. So all the people that are in this for the asset value of the cryptocurrency and to trade it and make money off it are in Bitcoin specifically for that. Not because they believe in the technology, not because they think they can see use cases for it, but because they know it's a good way to make money.
Right.
So, and that's where the big money is going. Like, there's big money in other coins too, plenty in Ethereum, but most of it is there. And the other part about Bitcoin is heavily tied to the NASDAQ. All these tech stocks, not all these, but a lot of these tech stocks are buying big. Think about Tesla. Think about MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, right? Like that. Everything Michael Saylor says, like, he's a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't know. There's people that they have all these different names: Bitcoin opportunist, optimist, whatever it is. But the way I see it is like anybody with a hedge fund that's pumping Bitcoin and saying all the same stuff about freedom and this and that. They're all kind of doing the same thing. They're trying to pump Bitcoin to sell it. They are not in Bitcoin because they think it's going to change the world. They say they are, and then maybe a little piece of them might think like, oh, I'm going to be here just in case, but they are literally there to make money. And that's the sad part about the cryptocurrency market. There's a lot of that going on, like you were saying, with
Bored Apes.
With Bored Apes, right? People are, there's opportunists. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunists coming in and doing that. So that's kind of the bear case. So, all right, so let's go back to the bull case again. So was there anything else for the bull case, or was that it for you?
I don't remember everything I said, but I'll go with what I said.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I guess my bull case would be, one, there's more than just the currency aspect of it. There's a way to basically do anything. It's like it could be the next version of the internet. It can be decentralized in a way that, in theory, I don't know if this will work in practice, but in theory, could help prevent things like the great financial crisis and all the money printing and the inflation and devaluation by a small group of people. Yeah. Right? Like the devaluation of currency for the majority is being done by a tiny minority. And there is that case to either Bitcoin is not quite there. It's in that direction. I don't really know of any cryptocurrency that's like there yet. There's probably some that I don't know about, but it's going in that direction. Right. So that's another piece of the bull case.
That's DeFi, like completely DeFi, because I think play to earn actually feeds into what you're saying. Like that's a real big part of the bull case because it's utility and everything. And yeah, I think
you might have mentioned that. Maybe you didn't. But yeah, that's another one. So there's utility in it. So we've got the decentralization, the hedge against inflation and things like that. The utility factor, possibly a way to be more fair. If it's done properly, more fair to the average person. But when we get into the bear case, we'll talk about why that's not necessarily the case yet.
Yeah, because it's how do you get into it? It's like there's so few people that are actually trading on these things.
Right.
And then you take out the scams and you take out the projects that fail and then you take out the coins that just don't do it for whatever reason, mismanagement or bad market or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're left with the real small percentage of stuff that actually works out.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what we're going through right now. Is when things are in a downtrend, you get to see what the good performers are because you'll see certain things getting crushed less than other things.
Yeah.
And if you see that, you can look into them. And that's kind of what we're doing with the crypto market right now. Is like we're looking at the cryptocurrencies that have utility, right? And so that was why I wanted to talk about Splinterlands. So there's probably more for the bull case, but we're going to move on to the next thing. So utility versus image. Is what I have written down here in my notes. So what I mean by that is like a cryptocurrency that has a use versus a cryptocurrency that's just being pumped by an image that has nothing to back it up. Right. So most cryptocurrencies in the altcoin market are probably going to be image currencies, right? They're going to be ones that don't have anything behind them.
Would you consider Doge an image currency?
Yes, a little bit.
Yes, I would say ultimately yes.
I would say yes, but I don't think it's a scam. Like I do, because there are people that actually believe in it. I don't know about Elon Musk, whether or not people like him actually believe in it. He might, but I think it's what I like about Doge is the fact that it is accessible to people. It's cheaper. Like buying one Bitcoin at this time is going to cost you around $30,000. Not everyone has $30,000 to buy one, much less if you want a few. Right? Whereas Doge is like 14 cents, 20 cents, 10 cents, whatever it is.
It's like 6 cents. Right
6 cents. I don't even know. Like I don't pay attention to it anymore. And I don't really believe in Doge long term. I think that it has a little bit of utility, and there are places that take Doge as payment. That's why I say it's not fully an image. It does have a little utility as a currency.
That's true.
A tiny bit. But it's not it's not
Maverick tickets or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's some basketball, some NBA arenas were taking it.
Cuban said he would take it for like Maverick store or something.
Yeah, that's right. Mark Cuban was talking about it, and I think I don't know if Tesla takes it, maybe, but so yeah, there's the utility behind some of these. So what I'm looking for right now in the cryptocurrency market is something that has a utility versus an image. And the utility could be as a currency. Right. It doesn't have to be an extra project, but there are cryptocurrencies tied to many real world things. Now, you can actually trade commodities using cryptocurrencies. Before, you would have to get into a trading account. You'd have to know enough about commodities to actually trade these contracts. You'd be beholden to these contracts, and that could be dangerous for certain people. Whereas cryptocurrencies allow you to sidestep that and just kind of buy a piece of it as it goes. So it's actually it's democratizing trading and investing for certain people. Even though these projects aren't necessarily necessarily there yet. It's the beginning of something that allows the average person, people without a whole lot of money, to do this.
And I think what's very definitely part of the bull case are the projects that are working. Like
Yes.
Splinterlands and like Brave and Bat. Because Bat is a functioning browser and it's a functioning way to have like a DeFi kind of creator program where we all support each other. You know, when I listen to your podcast, you get some of my Bat, when you know, vice versa.
See, and that's a good point, because if you think about platforms like Twitch, in order to get paid from Twitch, you need to reach a certain amount of users, a certain amount of time.
Right.
So there are requirements, and there's kind of a grind, and there's kind of like an elitist club in there.
Yeah.
You know, there are the Twitch streamers that are super famous because they've been pumped and they got in early.
I mean, you do see some of those in the BAT program, but it's not the typical. The typical guy you see in like the basic attention creator thing is like a guy who's got like 600 or 700 subscribers, and he's just finding one more way to justify doing this.
Right.
know?
And that's the good thing about cryptos. There are multiple ways to make money. So you could be staking your coins in some currency. Then you could go over to Basic Attention Token or the Brave browser. Yeah. You could stream on there, and people could pay you, or you could put content up there. They like it. They can pay you in Basic Attention Token.
It'd be like you would stream on your Twitch or your YouTube, and then that just connect that to your account, and just make the BAT from the people who are also in the program.
Right. So that there is utility in that, which is nice. Yeah. So that's definitely another part of the bull case for that.
Yeah, and play to earn games where it's like, ideally you play the video game you'd play anyway, but like the little rubles or happy tokens that you earn are actually something you can transfer into money down the line.
Right. So that's what's nice, because a lot of people are going to play games anyway. I mean, both of us play video games that we have our whole lives.
Exactly.
You know, so if we're going to do this anyway, then it would be nice to be able to get paid for it or make some money, you know, so...
Imagine getting paid for, like, all the rubies you ever collected in Zelda. Or,
right?
You know, like, all the gold in Diablo. Imagine if Diablo gold was worth 0.00002 cents, you know?
Oh, man, some people would be loaded.
Millionaire, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's nice about crypto is it's changing the way the economy works in some ways. Because, like, the original point of cryptocurrency was as an alternative to fiat, because there are problems with fiat. Like, fiat does some things better than crypto does, and crypto does some things better than fiat does. You know, and as crypto is adopted more, I think it's going to overtake fiat in those ways. I don't think that's definitely going to happen. I want to make that clear. I think I think it's very likely that it could happen. You know, depending upon how things go. But so now I think what we need to do
I think we're going to have fiat crypto. I think we're going to...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's not I think that's happening.
Yeah, no, that's happening right now. So, like, what is it? China has their the digital yuan that they're tying. Because it's not just...
Russia's doing it. We're doing it. Japan, I think, already did.
Yeah, the United States Central Bank has been working on something. I think they're going to take quite a while to roll something out, because, like, they want to make sure they get it right. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're basically the central bank of the entire world in some ways. So they need to make sure that they can use this not only here but everywhere, and it accomplishes their goals and blah blah blah.
And there's already the U.S. dollar as crypto and various stable coins. So
yeah, I mean that's how
you're huge need right now.
Yeah, that's how you're tying things together. You're right, with the dollar, like pegging the dollar to your cryptocurrency to keep it stable or whatever. Yeah. You know, so
but there's one of those was a scam.
Oh yeah, but plenty of them were a scam. It happens because that's the tale as old as time. Like, are you holding enough dollars to justify the amount of your token that you're issuing?
Right.
You know, and like that's where ethics comes into. So that's the thing with any monetary system. Like, no matter how well you make something, there's always going to be the ethics part of it, right? I think that's the big debate in economics right now. We've kind of experienced capitalism has experienced a boom in the last century, but it's also in the later half we've been having more problems with it. Like, it benefited the United States and the Western countries early on during the wars, during the restructuring of power of the entire planet when technology was coming up. You know, so it was actually very beneficial during that time for growth. But we're hitting a point now where we can't be growing in the same ways, right? Power is consolidating into people that have everything already, and the people that don't are losing more. And that's kind of the hope of cryptocurrency, is that we can bypass that.
Yeah, like our ideology hasn't caught up to the technology. In a way, our morality hasn't caught up to technology. And I'm not religious, but there is a death of the religious stuff that's happening now because it just doesn't make that much sense based with the like scientific discoveries we're having.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point. And the downside of that is the morality that was with that is also going with it.
Exactly, that was my point. Exactly.
Right.
It's like I'm not a big fan of religion, but at least when like every country had this universal truth, there was more common ground and there was less division,
right.
know? And we need some kind of universal truth as like a society.
Yeah.
And like economics and crypto, like you said, they are kind of like offering those things. And that's like why I like play to earn and these kind of things, because it's like if you can just turn what you pay attention to, your time and attention, to quote another guy, into like its own economy, its your own like payout. That's like remarkable. And I think our generation kind of just wants to will that into existence. They want to just be able to be like, oh no, I'm a professional disc golf player, but no, I've never finished or won a Grand Prix. I just twitch like disc golf matches,
right. I think there's a point to that where previous generations didn't have anything like that. Like I think every kid in any generation has thought something like that. Like I wish I didn't have to have to participate in the grind. Right. I wish I could do something fun and make money off of that. Right. We now have that reality coming to play.
Right, but because there aren't those hard work, there's just not enough of those hard work jobs to go around, and the system hasn't made them rewarding enough to justify the toll on your body and your psyche and shit,
Right. So there's an alternative now. And it's still new. And I think what's kind of happening in the psyche of the different generations is that the previous generations don't see this as the future. They see it as a fad, and they see it as something that's taking people away from the traditional way of making money. Right. Which, in a way, it is. There is something to be said about that. But it's also because the world is changing and the way we do things is changing. This is going to be life at some point. Like the internet and what it's allowed us to do with work is going to grow as time goes on because it has utility. But the older generations don't see that. So what I think they're doing is not only not participating as much, because people of all generations are participating in cryptocurrency and other things.
Right.
But like more so the younger generations, because we're growing up with it, we see the problems that they didn't have to face. When things were easier, when you could buy houses easier, you could get jobs easier, the economy was just going up, 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 up. Everything was expanding. There was more land that you could get, whatever, everything. So now that we're kind of at the point where we're not expanding at that same rate, we can't expand at that same rate. We need to change in a different way. It's like cities, they couldn't expand out anymore, so eventually they had to expand up. Right. So I think that's kind of what's happening with crypto is we're expanding up, and the older generations only see out. So they're not supporting this, or they're actively trying to block it in order to keep their status quo. Right. But as time goes on and the utility of this thing goes up, I think this is going to become the economy. The economy we have now and the digital economy are going to mix into one thing. Yeah. It's at least that's the most likely option from the path that we're on right now.
Right.
So to me, that's another bullish case for crypto, is that it's still in the early days. Even though it's very popular now, and you missed the chance to get 100,000 Bitcoin for $1 or whatever it was.
Right.
There's still a chance to make money in the space. Maybe not from extreme asset growth, or maybe from extreme asset growth. I don't know. Like Bitcoin could go to $1 million. It could go 100,000, 500,000, whatever.
In 5 years,
be AOL.
Yeah, in 5 years, we could be talking about how like Bitcoin just didn't adapt enough.
Exactly. So that now I think that should bring us to the bear case, right? So what's the bear case for everything? Then that's one thing. Bitcoin is so popular right now that there's kind of an ideology behind it, right? Yeah. When you hear the maximalists talk about everything, it's going to be this utopian world because of Bitcoin. That's kind of like a pie in the sky fantasy at this point. It's a technical possibility, but it's the way they're selling it, right? Like you watch a commercial for anything like a car, they show it driving on this beautiful mountain road and doing wheelies in a like a cool desert and by a lake and everything. Like they show you like, listen, you could go to the beach or whatever. So they're showing you that fantasy, but really you're going to use that car to go to the store and probably go to the doctors to get like an operation done or something. Right. Like it's not all going to be this glorious thing. Right. So I think that's what's going on with crypto right now. But the ideologies are also very strong in people. So I think what's going to happen at some point is as things change, the limitations of Bitcoin are going to be tested, and the developers are going to come to a choice where they're going to either have to change Bitcoin fundamentally or fail. And
or
that's
it's just going to be a store of value.
Or it's just going to be a store of value.
Yeah. I kind of think that's where it's going personally, but
well, here's the other thing. That's already happened, right? Because if you think about the history of Bitcoin, which actually, here's my notes from the other day. Initially, Bitcoin's white paper laid out this roadmap for it, right? And they said, specifically, this is what should be done with it. Yeah. And as it got popular, and as we learned more about the technology, we realized there were... it wasn't going to be exactly the way it was written out when it was first invented, right? Because the technology was extremely new in 2008 or 9, whenever it was originally minted. So they couldn't have seen everything that was going to happen with it. So eventually, the developers had to come to a point where they decided, all right, are we going to change the way we do this? And the example was smart contracts. So Ethereum does smart contracts. Bitcoin doesn't. And at one point, they were saying, okay, we have to do smart contracts because this is where blockchain technology is going. But the people that were the purists, the original, they said, no, it's only a currency. We want to keep it this way. So what happened? Part of the development team split off and created Bitcoin Cash, right? So they wanted, number one, they wanted to be able to... the transactions were getting difficult with Bitcoin, right? It had like a 1 megabyte block size, which could only fit so many transactions in there. And once you came up to the limit of that, you got wait times, right? And then as the wait times grew, people were paying more money to jump the queue and get their transaction done first. So people with money just pushed ahead of everyone else and caused it to slow down. So Bitcoin Cash said, all right, in order to change that, one of the things we could do is increase the block size so we could have more transactions. So they did that. They created Bitcoin Cash. They made the block size bigger, and and actually at first it was boycotted. All right, because people thought, oh, what are these people doing? It's not. This isn't in the spirit of Bitcoin. Yeah, there's more than just the block size. There were quite a few things, but essentially it was supposed to be basically the same thing as Bitcoin, but with some adjustments. So, but then the funny thing is, a few years after that, Bitcoin Cash had another falling out between two developers. One of the developers, Craig Wright, wanted things to be exactly the way Satoshi Nakamoto said they were going to be in the original white paper. Yeah. And so he split off from Bitcoin Cash and created Bitcoin SV. And the Bitcoin Cash, the original people like Roger Ver and all them, they became Bitcoin Cash ABC. So Bitcoin has forked multiple times already. So who's to say that it's not going to fork again when ideologies start to clash? So that's one bear case in my mind.
Yeah. I really like when the cryptocurrencies hit Robinhood or Webull to pick some up at that time, because it seems like right after they hit those sites, they go up.
Oh, yeah, they pump. Yeah. Well, because you think about it in a couple of ways. One, there are new users who didn't have access to it that now have access to it. Two, it's in the news, so traders are seeing that and buying it in anticipation, so it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's what Shiba Inu did to get its pump. It just... every week or a couple weeks it was come out, a new site, a new thing, and it just rode that up to 1,000 times.
Yeah, no, that's what happens with these. It's buy the rumor, sell the news kind of a thing. So as soon as because what happened afterwards, there was a big pump and then there's a dump, right? So it's still more valuable than it was,
right?
But because of that, it's lost some value because there was a bunch of trading going on. So that's one part of the bear case. So another part of the bear case is Bitcoin is supposed to be a way to democratize money, right? It's supposed to be just as fair for the rich guy as it is for the poor person. But the problem is, at this point, it's still not that way, right? Because anybody with money can buy into this and increase the price and put it out of the hands of people that used to be able to afford it but no longer can. The other problem with that is not only does it make it difficult for people to get in, but it also makes it more difficult to be used as an actual currency.
Right.
So that's the thing. To be a currency, you have to be stable enough for people to be okay taking it or giving it out.
Right. And is that a problem with like Bitcoin, or is that just a problem with our economic structure in general?
Well, it's...
you know what I mean? Because it's like the big problem with Bitcoin is that these 5 people or 10 people or whatever can like manipulate it at a whim.
Exactly.
And like, are they colluding? Are they not? Is it legal for them to collude? I don't know the answer to these questions, but there's probably some stuff going on, like...
Oh, absolutely. And it's not decentralized for that reason. Right. Because a very small amount of people own a majority of it and they can control the price of it. So it's really not a currency. It's an asset. It's something to grow in value.
That's happening with our currencies too. This happens with the dollar.
Right. Well, the dollar...
art. It happens with baseball cards. It happens with anything that people perceive with value in a capitalist system.
Well, and it's not just a capitalist system. That's just how trading in general works.
Yeah.
Like that's just how value in general works. Because if everybody wants something and there's not enough of it, it's going to be harder to get it. No matter what system you're under, that's just the basic rule of. That's just like a rule of nature, right?
Yeah.
There's not really a way at this point to not make that happen. That's what people are trying to do.
That's where I disagree with you. I think we have actually the technology and the resources that we could make that happen if we were functioning on the level which we should be.
No, I agree. I think that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're there yet, but we have the capability to do it.
Yeah, we could definitely do it. We just don't have the mentality for it.
See, that's the part. I will disagree with one word in there, the word definitely. I don't know if definitely we can do it because perhaps this is just a law of nature. Maybe this is how, because, in any system.
There's so much waste. There's so much waste. I mean,
there is so much waste.
This area where they grow nuts, it's like you see 10% of the nuts on the ground after they harvest, Well,
yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. But that's the thing, though. Like, in any system, any kind of like structured system, eventually a small percentage of people either do most of the work or gain most of the benefit. And no matter how you set that system up, that seems to play out over and over and over in all these different ways. Like if you think about companies, like most companies have a small percentage of people that do like 50 or more percent of the work. Right. And those are the most competent people in the company. So if, they're the ones that have the leverage to go elsewhere. And if they leave a company, they can really hurt them. But like, if you try to set up a system where that doesn't happen, it still drifts in that way anyway. So that's one thing that's difficult is like, I don't know if we definitely can get out of that. I think we can. I believe that we can, but I don't know for sure because it might be a law of nature that we just can't get by in some way.
I agree with you on that. When I say we definitely can, I'm saying that we definitely have the physical resources and the technology to make it happen. But I totally agree with what you're saying is the hurdle we have to jump is the mentality. It's
the mentality.
Morality. It's the universal morality,
Right.
Like,
and that's the other thing. The morality comes back into it. No matter what system you set up, there has to be a certain amount of ethics in order for it to function properly. Right. I think that's the big debate in economic systems right now. So politically, 20 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about socialism in the mainstream. It was there, but it wasn't something that you talked about every day. Now, that is talked about constantly, and the argument I keep seeing about it is one side, it's tried so many times, you look at what happens, it always gets corrupted. The other side says, no, it just hasn't been done right. And I think both sides actually have merit. But I think the big problem is the ethics involved in both. Like, capitalism can work, socialism can work, communism can work, but the ethics have to be there in order for it to happen. We have yet to figure out a system that puts the ethics aside and does it itself. And that's the hope of cryptocurrency. Right? That's what they're hoping they can do. Is if they can, if they can decentralize finance and take the small groups out of it, hopefully it will work out for everybody equally.
And that's the kind of thing. It's like Splinterlands right now. You have this battle between the bots and the grinders and the whales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like a microcosm of this DeFi system that we're having in like the whole economics.
Yeah.
Because what's fair isn't always going to be good for everyone. You know what I mean? What might be good for the whale might not be good for the grinder. What might be good for the grinder might not be good for the bot. You know? And that's a big part of what DeFi means. It's like, it's not necessarily the best case scenario for you. It's the environment that lets the whale, the grinder, the bot, everyone, the minnow, all survive.
Right. And I think that blockchain technology in general has the promise to do that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that ethically are working on that and doing it in the right way. Yeah. It's like there are scams. There are people that are trying to make it look like it's some decentralized thing, but still centralize it. Right. But then there are the people that are actually working on something real. And I think some of those projects, when they have utility, will succeed. Yeah. But the problem with that, though, is right now we have a power structure that once those things start to gain traction, will fight against it. So the only way you can beat that is to have a good enough idea that surpasses their ability to crush it.
Fight against it or cannibalize it. Because
either one.
That's my biggest concern with Splinterlands is Magic or Blizzards or somebody getting on board with the crypto thing and the trading card thing. And before Splinterlands is established and has like 1 million players, like Magic Arena being like, oh, our crystals are a cryptocurrency now, just because they already have hundreds of millions probably or playing the game.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about these projects. Somebody like, let's say Blizzard, because they're actually somebody that would be interested in something like that at some point, because they own games that are like Splinterlands already.
Right.
And they would love to get probably more into the cryptocurrency space. The problem with something like Blizzard owning it, as you're putting it, is they're a publicly traded company. So they have to return value to the shareholders. So they're going to do everything they can to squeeze every penny out of it. Not necessarily make it work as well for everyone, but just to work well enough to continue giving them money. Yeah. So they're going to take the vision out of it and change it to how can we make a bunch of money off of this.
And they're going to go and kicking and screaming. They're not going to adopt cryptocurrency until they can't sell their packs anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like both Blizzards and Magic, they're long past the time when they were innovative. You know what I mean? When they were the company that was going to bring you the hip new thing. They're it's just the same old.
There's both good and bad to the markets. I like the markets as a way of generating wealth over time. Like, I think it is a better wealth generator than a lot of things. But the problem with the publicly traded markets is the incentive goes away from making a good product to making more money. And that's this cliche thing, everybody's said for decades, right? Centuries. It's like, as soon as something becomes big enough to be one of these giants, then it just becomes a giant vacuum cleaner. It's no longer the innovative thing that has a trajectory of up. It's already up, and it's looking at everything below and just sucking. It doesn't have to go up. It's already up. Right. So, that part of it is gone. That's what you're saying. The innovation is really gone. They have just enough innovation to keep them going, and they have brand loyalty, really. Like somebody like Blizzard has Diablo, they have World of Warcraft, they have StarCraft. They have all these games that have been going for so long and have so many fans that they can just take advantage of that. Right. I mean, up to a point, because you can only make something so crappy before people leave. And they are doing a good enough job to keep from doing that. But they don't have to be super innovative and new.
I think a big part of that is, I think a lot of the older fans are leaving, but because they have that establishment brand, it's like the Star Wars effect, they get the kids. Because, you know what I mean? Like, when you're a little kid, you just kind of play what's there, It's not until you get, like, when you're 5, 6, you just kind of pick up what your parents, what your older brother or your parents have. Not until you get into, like, early preteens or whatever that you start actually, like, looking for stuff on by yourself.
Anyway, I think we're off topic right now, so let's get back on the thing. Okay, so talking about the bear case. So we had the bull case, some of the bear case. Mostly my problem with it is, one, I'll just try to summarize this quickly. One, it's not as decentralized as people want to think. Yeah. Two, it's not, most of them are not currencies yet. They're assets that move too much in value to be used as currencies. Yeah. 3, they can be manipulated. 4, and here's the two big ones, right? 1, they can be attacked. It's hard to attack them, but there may be ways we don't understand yet. That's my one worry about cryptocurrency, is that somebody will figure out a way to crack these things and to take advantage of it, right? Like, most of the attacks we know about now are difficult on larger cryptocurrencies because the currencies are so large. Right. Like with Bitcoin, you could take over the Bitcoin network if you had enough hash power to take at least 51% or more of the entire network. And then you could say, like, all right, I'm going to say what the transactions are now. But to do that, you would need like a ridiculous amount of computing power and energy, and it would probably cost you more to do it than you'd be able to make from it, especially as people leave the currency because it's now a scam. Right. But anyway, so attacks are a possibility. And here's the biggest one that I worry about overall. It's basically the nuke. Regulation, right? There's going to be regulation. It's necessary because of all the craziness, but the regulation could be bad enough, like if they ban it, right? That's what I mean by the nuke. Like if the United States government or China or any big government just decides, we're done with cryptocurrency, we're banning our users from using it, if you use it, then you're in trouble, you're going to jail, whatever it is.
That to a detention camp.
Who knows, man? Like, whatever they do with it. But regulation could be a nuke to cryptocurrency in general. They could just, if they ban it, that's it. Right? No matter how much of a maximalist you are, you need adoption for that. And the average person, if it's banned, is not going to use it. They're going to get rid of it. There are going to be people that fight it. if that John McAfee guy, I don't know if that's his name, the guy that died last year or whatever, he was like a Bitcoin maximalist. He was like, he couldn't go back to the United States. He was like excommunicated or something. I don't remember the specifics, but that dude, like, he would have just held on forever, right? And there are people like that still will, but your average person doesn't have the ability to fight that. Yeah. And let's say they have like a couple $100 of cryptocurrency. Is it worth going to jail for a couple $100 or something?
Yeah.
No, especially if it's going down because people are getting rid of it.
They're not going to ban it, though. They're going to tax it.
Yeah, there's probably...
Tax will have probably the similar effects, just not as extreme.
Yeah, and, the taxation they can do slowly, and that's something that you don't realize, and it's like creep. It comes in slowly, and then eventually it's a problem. Like California taxes right now are kind of that way. Like, they've been going up for years, and they've become a problem for people to where... there are businesses leaving the state because of how high the taxes are.
You can't put a septic tank in on your own property.
Yeah, you can't.
Paying like $30,000.
You can't build low-income housing in a lot of places that need it because the regulations are so crazy. So that's what I worry about with Bitcoin is regulating it to the point where it's unusable. And I think that's the goal for a lot of people that are threatened by cryptocurrency. Like the traditional markets in some way actually are threatened by Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Wow.
Because the currency is being used as a weapon to not have to actually send people in to die like we used to in wars, right? Currency has become the way... I mean, people still die. It still happens. But, like, it's not the same as when, you were a kingdom and you needed to send your army over to this other kingdom to tell them what's what. Right. Now you can sanction them or you can get trading partners, and it has the same effect. So it's like it's being used as a weapon, and as cryptocurrency comes in, fiat becomes less and less of a weapon to use, which means what are they probably going to do? They either have to hurt cryptocurrency enough to keep the fiat as their weapon, or they need to start using actual weapons. Right? Those are the options. Right. So I think at some point
that's what they do to prop up the dollar.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're exactly right. And I think at some point it's going to come to a head where adoption of some currency, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's a specific one, whatever, gets to a point where there actually has to be a face-off. Like, there are people that think, cryptocurrency will win everything no matter what. There are people that think they can both coexist. And I think that's the case. I think they can both coexist, but I do think that there's going to be a point where one takes over the other. And what'll probably happen, at least, in my limited point of view, is that the people that are in control of the monetary systems right now are going to perfect their currencies enough to outpace some of the, Bitcoin and some of these other ones just by using propaganda or by actually having a good enough product to beat them out at their own game, but still be able to use it as a centralized thing.
Yeah, I think what the U.S. is doing is that they're going to make it so that the U.S. dollar is also a cryptocurrency, that they can print crypto dollars or cash however they want and distribute it however they want.
Agree. That's exactly what I was thinking too, because that's kind of what China's doing, and that's because what China's doing is not only a currency, but it's also a social credit system, which is kind of the thing that's a little scary about it. It is extremely Orwellian, because you think about, like, if you do something that the government doesn't like, they can lower your social credit score, which limits your access to use that currency.
And that's one of these things that if we were ready for it as a species, it wouldn't be so bad. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something messed up, it's a strike against you. If you do something good, it's a strike for you. I have no problem with that. I actually really like that concept in its purest form. Right. But having, like, a corrupt government dictating what's a good thing and what's a bad thing, it's scary as
Because that's what the point I was trying to make, actually, was the fact that can be used to control everything. And if it's corrupt, then of course we're going to have problems. And I think that's what's been going on with every economic system. I think that's why capitalism and socialism have had problems, because corruption has caused those problems.
Yeah, it's an underlying problem with everything right now.
Yeah.
It's corruption and, But here's my big bear argument for crypto. We're nowhere near all-time lows.
Okay. See, there's a good point. Yeah. Right? Because how far does this fall, right?
Right.
Because belief is what keeps it up here. Like, when you're talking about the bottom, that's why I was extremely skeptical, because I'm like, when I got in this was at a level lower, right?
Exactly.
Like, $20,000 was pie in the sky. Like, it hit 20 and then it just went, it had a bear market for a year straight. And that's when I got in, during that bear market in 2018. So to me, it getting past that $20,000 is amazing because I didn't think it would ever happen. Right. I was buying into it for a couple of years. Nothing was happening. It was going up, but like it was bouncing around like 8,000 to 12,000, 13 for a long time. So my thought was like, all right, it came back a little bit. It was at like 6 for a long time before the big drop. And then, now it's a little bit above that. So this is kind of where it is. But then when it shot up past 20 and went all the way up to 60, I was blown away. Like, so to me, this is still, even though it's in this zone, it's still really high to me. Even though this might actually be the bottom, it's hard to see that for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. When I got in, it was way higher than this. And I'm stuck with some Ethereum right now, but I've made money off it, so I don't even really know how much I'm down.
It's not a bad one to be stuck with.
But what I'm saying is, like, when I got in, this level was what the analysts that I listened to and trust were saying was like the dream scenario bot. They were like, save some money for if it gets to 1,700, talking about Ethereum, but it never will. You know what I mean? That was kind of what they're saying. And I think it's been under 1,700. I think it's hanging out around 18, but by the time this airs, it might be at 14, might be at 24. Who knows? But
yeah, and those predictions were made during the mania. Right. Too. And that's the thing. It's like when the mania actually hits, no matter how long you've been in the markets, there's still a feeling of, is this going to keep going? Because like, you look at a chart and a year doesn't look like that much time, but like think of how long a year feels to you. Think about every day looking at your currency and seeing it up, up. And you think, I should have bought more.
Right. Especially if you're looking at it every day, or every hour, every minute.
Like, those analysts that you're listening to they're looking at it every day. They're looking at the stories. They need to come up with stuff to say to everybody.
And a lot of times they're not seeing the forest from the trees. They're
exactly.
They're seeing, and that I make that mistake a lot too.
We all do.
Where it's like, I bought at times when I look back, I'm like, why did I buy there? But I didn't have any. You know what I mean? And I wanted some. I liked the thing.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to time anything. That's why dollar cost averaging beats trading like hands down in every study that's ever been done basically.
Yeah.
Because if you try to time things, you're never going to get it right. But if you just keep adding and let it do its thing, if it's something you believe in and it is a quality thing, then the dollar cost averaging is going to work for you. Yeah. So it's not a bad idea to just have some, because I've bought some investments that I thought, all right, I just want to have a little bit so that I have it. Right. And then I can add to it later. And that's actually, I think that's a good thing. Like when you're in a huge uptrend, it's not a bad idea to just have a little, add a little at a time, and then wait for this big drop. Because these things always these cycles continue. And I mean, if you leave the markets and you talk about anything that has to do with value, boom and bust cycles are just a natural part of economics and probably nature. Right? Because that's what we do. Like, think about nature works like that. There's a bunch of food all of a sudden, then there's no food. There's a bunch of food, and there's no food.
The acorns, how the trees will produce more acorns on certain years to overwhelm the squirrels, so more of the seeds have a chance to grow. Yeah.
See, there you go. It's the exact same thing, and then they probably pay a cost for that, right? And have to like recover, or
they just can't. They have less the other years. They I don't know how a tree thinks, but but it's like every 4 or 5 years they'll have like 3 or 4 times as many acorns.
And that strategy obviously got them through time to now, because squirrels are crazy. Like anybody that's ever tried to have a garden or some bird feeders or something like that, once the squirrels figure out it's there, they become a huge problem.
Did you know that they don't find like 80% of the nuts they hide?
Yeah, because they dig fake holes and stuff to try to
fucking meth heads just run around.
No, they exactly are, and you know what? They get just enough to survive, and that strategy has worked for them, because like think of how prevalent they are. They're everywhere.
Right.
But the point is there's a lot of boom and busts in nature and in the markets and everything like that. Yeah. So when you're in one of those manias, you have to realize that eventually it is going to end. But at the same time, see, my problem was that clouded my judgment. For very early on in that 2021 mania, actually back in 2020, I was expecting that run to end so much faster. In fact, most traders were. Yeah. After the pandemic drop, as things were coming back up, every couple of months, I had some kind of short on, because I was like, all right, this is it. All right, everything's coming back down. We've had too many problems for it to keep going. But what happened? We went to all-time highs. It spent 2 straight years going up. Yeah. 2 years. So I basically, by the time I finally accepted the bull market, was probably around the time that GameStop and everything crapped out and the market started getting way more volatile. Yeah. Right. By that time, I thought, okay, I get it. It's going up, and it kept going for a little while. But in the back of my mind, I was still suspicious of when is this going to end. And sure enough, it did. But what ended it? So here's something we need to think about as all investors. What actually caused the bull market that made everything, including cryptocurrency, go? Right? It was the fact that prices dropped low enough and the Fed acted quickly enough to prop everything back up. So there was a reason for it to rise. If you get rid of company fundamentals and everything like that, the overall tides were ready to come back up because the money was being turned back on. Right? That's basically what the government and the Fed do. They turn the money spigot on and they turn it off, or they adjust the dial a little bit. Like right now, they're cranking that dial back down because they turned it all the way up, basically. They had interest rates down at like 0.08 or something for a while. And now we're up, I think we're at 0.77, I believe. So they're turning it up quickly. And in this month, in June, they're going to turn it up again. And then probably in July and August, they're going to do it again to take care of this inflation problem. So now we actually have downward pressure. The tide is starting to drop. So there's a reason why things are going down. If you look at the macroeconomic case for everything, the tide was going up for a while and now the tide is going down. So take fundamentals, take technical analysis, all that stuff out of it. We've got a lowering tide. So we're in an environment where we should buy. We should short. We should not expect rallies to last very long. But at the same time, you don't want to be fully out of everything because if the tide starts to go up again, it's good to have something in the market. So I say this is a buyer's market. This is a time to look at the good cryptocurrencies that you like, ones that have utility, ones that you have a bull case for, the good investments, whatever they are. This would be the time to start buying and slowly add in. Don't go crazy because it's probably going to keep going for a while, but this is the time.
Yeah.
And so bringing this back to cryptocurrency. So we've talked about the bull case and the bear case, and we've talked a little bit about utility. So that's what we didn't really get into that much. So utility versus image. So Splinterlands, which is the thing I really wanted to talk about, has utility for us. So tell everybody about Splinterlands real quick.
It's basically a collectible trading card game on the blockchain. You can check it out for free when you buy your Splinterlands wallet for $10. You get a Hive wallet. You familiar with Hive?
No, the cryptocurrency, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's also like a marketplace, and they have a wallets and all that kind of stuff. So you get, if you're new to crypto investing, it's actually really good because then you can buy a wallet, you have a place to store like your NFTs or other cryptos, you can transfer them in and out. But what's really cool about the game is the currencies of the game are cryptocurrencies and the cards are NFTs. And their ambition is to be completely DeFi'd. Like they're almost there. I don't understand all the ins and outs of decentralization, but they talk about it. So the great thing about the game is they have a town hall AMA every week with the creators and the CEO and everything. So it's like...
So there is some kind of transparency, which is nice in the crypto space.
I shouldn't say complete, but yeah, there's...
More than a lot of projects.
Right, and there's like a lot. Like, could you imagine like CEO of Blizzards and the head creators doing a town hall? On a live stream,
the closest you ever get is an earnings call, and usually the only people that can ask questions are like high position analysts and stuff.
Yeah,
like not every, Robinhood is kind of experimenting with something where average people can ask, but you don't get that kind of transparency.
Yeah, and then so you earn the crypto. There's 2 cryptos in the game mainly. There's a few actually, but the main ones are Dark Energy Crystal (DEC) and SPS, and you can earn through airdrops, running out your cards, playing tournaments, getting daily and season rewards, or like flipping your cards like you would cryptos or stocks. Like that's actually when I got into it. I have a background in Magic the Gathering, so I would just buy up cards that were in short supply, and then the price would go up, and I'd sell them for $20, $30 more, and that's how I got started in it. Because I always loved doing that in Magic with like physical cards.
Yeah, so that's what you did in the real world for a long time.
Still do.
Yeah, you still do it. So your knowledge lies in that space, and this cryptocurrency allowed you to move that into a realm where you can make money in multiple ways.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like with the markets, I got into it when you recommended it, and I had my cousin was recommending it, and so I got into the markets, and I always had an interest, and it was just there was always the barriers to getting in, but then with Robinhood and Webull and these sites, it's just like load it up, da 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 da. Like I wanted to buy Google or PayPal or whatever, I forget exactly what it was back in like 2000. I just
Right.
couldn't get on and actually do it. Still doing with the dial-up, like $45 per trade fees and all that. Like, I just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, and a lot of people were still calling their brokers over the phone and paying ridiculous fee. Yeah, so it wasn't. Now it's accessible.
Right, and so I really like the ideas, like from investing. I like the ideas of dividend stocks and staking and these kind of things where you're getting paid out for holding the asset.
Right.
And then I found the Plater and the Splinterlands. I tried a few games before I was actually about to give up when I found Splinterlands. And I believe the first time I tried it, I was just kind of like, eh. It reminded me of a game that I had played on Facebook a while back, just not as in depth, you know? But then I gave it a second chance, and I realized, like, oh, like, this is a utility for NFTs that no one is talking about. That your digital assets, because that's a big problem with Magic. There was a big thing where some shitlord and some cosplay lady had this big controversy, and shitlord got banned from Magic. And there's a big thing about they were canceling all his Arena. And Arena was like NFTs before NFTs because everything was... Or not Arena, Magic Online. Arena is not NFTs. It's like Hearthstone or Blizzards or whatever. It's just like, we own it, it's our stuff, but maybe you can trade somehow. I don't think you can trade in Arena. But yeah, like they were basically seizing all his Magic Online stuff or like canceling his account or something, and it had real world value. And there's a big controversy, and it's happened in a few other games. And NFTs are like an answer to that, to where you can own it, and there can be own it's strong, but for digital assets, I would say you own it.
Right.
You know? There can be at least a record of you possessing this or whatever. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, they can ban you from the game, but those are your assets. You can transfer them to a hardware wallet. You know, you can transfer them to another player and get whatever they're going to give you.
Right, so there's utility there as well. A little bit more security of assets, and you're not relying on that game specifically. So that's the one thing that, even though I have yet to play Splinterlands and look into it, I like the fact that it has a real-world token that you can trade outside the game.
Yeah.
You know, and that has value. And also, the other thing I like about it, you were saying, there are two things that you were saying in the interview that we had the audio problems on. You said, number one, you could rent your cards out to people and make money that way. And number two, one of their currencies was pegged to either Bitcoin or the dollar, so it had some stability, right? Okay,
yeah, the Dark Energy Crystal, the main currency that you use to buy and sell cards and get from winning battles and stuff, it's pegged at 2 zeros and a 1. So for every 1,000, it's $1. Now, I'm not 100% sure what assets they hold for that peg. They have a white paper. I'm sure it's in it.
Right.
But it's pegged... they might not even. I don't know. But it's pegged on the site. So it's like when they sell packs on the site, they'll be for 4,000 deck or, 4,000 of the PayPal credits or whatever. So, like, even if the DEC, the deck, falls below that, they'll still be the same price on the site. And the few times, like, it has fallen below the peg, it goes right back up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because you're right. If they're pegging it to something, then there's basically a price floor holding that up. So if anything goes below it, then obviously you can triage. You can buy it below that and sell it at the pegged value.
Right.
Which is what some people will do with exchanges. They'll try to triage exchanges by like buying, let's say Bitcoin on one exchange and then selling it for like, a penny more on another exchange.
Right.
People used to do that with stocks too, people still do, but I think with everything being electronic, it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
But the point is, there's a somewhat of a price floor because of that pegged currency to whatever it's pegged to.
And then when the currency gets high, you can cash it out, or you can convert it into their other currency, which is finite. They have like a 5-year plan of distribution on it, but then when it's done, it's done. Or like into cards, and then the cards are the NFTs, and then you can print them out, get the more of the currency, just keep going.
Right, and the fact that, and also, do you actually enjoy playing the game? Like, if there was none of everything else involved, would you still want to play the game?
Yes, and here's the other thing about that. They're having a new expansion. They bought like a big space in the sandbox, the digital land thing.
Right.
So they are setting it up so the game is going to expand, And they want to expand it into a community where people can mint their own NFTs. They can do their own game projects. So you can play to earn anything. You play to earn like a puzzle game, or maybe they set up an MMO that you have to download. It's a browser-based game, but like maybe they have a MMO that you have to download. And, you know, so like they are very committed on having something that like people are going to want to play. Like the CEO Agrod just did a Newsweek or Newsmax interview that I watched last night, and that's one of the things that he was talking about. He's like, we want this to be like a player-built community. Like, we want to facilitate what the players want to make and bring into the community, and that's like a wonderful attitude to have for a project like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the one of the bull cases for cryptocurrency projects like this,
right?
Because they're allowing these kind of things to happen.
Right.
I mean, they're small enough to where individuals actually can have an impact and can be heard, so these kind of things can happen, and that's what I really like about these projects. You know, again, this isn't an advertisement for Splinterlands, it's just an example in this space to talk about, and
I'm bullish on it, clearly.
But, yeah, and I am too, actually.
Yeah, I'm not being paid or anything. I honestly don't even have a very active role in the community. I'm just kind of like a grinder, and you take care of my girlfriend. I got her playing the game, but it's something in the crypto zone that I am knowledgeable about.
Right,
from grinding out.
And you know, and I like that because this is the direction that it's going. You know, I think things like this are just the beginning. And
I was thinking about for NFTs if they could do something with memes. This is kind of like a tangent, but like a potential utility where like if for bragging rights or nothing else, if you created a meme and then everyone shares it, it would be great to be like, oh no, see, I'm the first one that made that meme.
There was something like that, like with the Nyan Cat or Nyan Cat meme.
Yeah.
Like the original one is, you know, minted by the person who made it and sold.
Right,
for a ridiculous amount of money. So they actually do have something like that.
Yeah, and like when you go to these meme generators, if you made them NFTs, that would, you know what I mean?
It's like the original meme. Because that Nyan Cat or whatever it was something else before it was minted as an NFT. But if you started it as an NFT,
right,
then you have the record of like, hey, this is the number one, all the metadata will say this is when it started, this is where it started, and you'll have some ownership of that.
Right.
Which, because think about, like, all the memes that go around. Like, do you know who made any of them?
No.
No, I have no idea who made a single meme.
Yeah, like, I would share memes on my Facebook that I made, and people would be like, where did you get that? And I'm like, I just made it in one of the meme generators.
Yeah, there's tons of them.
Like, people don't even realize that. It's like some of the people you watch, they're actually making their memes, and other people are just sharing other people's memes.
Right.
And like if one time you make one meme, whatever, but if you're sitting here every day pumping out like memes that are shared millions of times, like, yeah, maybe you should get some financial compensation for that.
Yeah.
You know? Or at very least you could put it on a job interview and go and be a social media guy and being like, listen, I made these memes that are viewed a million times.
Like, I can make some memes for you. Yeah, see, That's actually valuable because you think about memes are probably one of the most popular things right now. So really, at some point, and that's what I think advertisers have tried to do already, is trying to put their own memes out there and be like, they're advertising their thing, but they're trying, and you can usually see right through that because the memes aren't as good. Like, when a really good meme is something that it comes from the heart of most people, like a feeling or something that like you feel or you think, but it's hard to express or you have trouble expressing it because of whatever reason. A meme like speaks to that. So you think, I like it, I share it.
Yeah.
So if you are good at finding those things that people like feel within but can't express very well, that's extremely valuable.
Right. More than like driving a truck, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, except for right now.
Not to talk shit up people who drive trucks for a living. That's not what I'm saying.
No, but I'm saying right now, dude, Walmart was paying like $100,000. You make $100,000 a year driving a truck for Walmart. Yeah. It's because, see, that's the problem with the supply chain right now. It's mostly shipping. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's...
It shouldn't even be that shit. It should all be automated and solar powered.
Oh, yeah, like, it's going... Look at Tesla. That's what they're doing. These companies are trying to make these trucks that are automated.
For a price.
Yeah, of course. Right, that's how it works, right? They got to do that. But, and I think that's what's going to happen more. As self-driving improves, they don't need truck drivers as bad. But right now, there's an extreme need for them. So there's another... there's another thing to think about in the crypto space: need for things, right? Because it's not just Splinterlands. Like Splinterlands is a game, so it has value in the sense that it's entertaining and you can make money off of it. But it's not creating a whole lot of real world stuff. It's mostly just generating wealth and time. Like there is some sure, right?
There's people in the Philippines paying their rent.
Well, see, okay.
You know
so yes, there's utility, right? But what I'm saying is like the game itself isn't creating a real world thing, right? Like there are cryptocurrencies. I don't know if this project. I'm sure. I'm thinking it's still going, but there's a project NRG that had to do with energy. I really don't remember the specifics of it. I remember thinking like, oh, that sounds cool. But the point of it is that there was some real world. It was tied to some real world value. You know, and actually that leads into the next point, like the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. The thing about proof of work, it benefits people with more resources, but the other thing it does is it pegs value in the real world because it takes energy, it takes a machine, it takes time to actually mine that. So there's a cost involved with that, which gives that a floor. And when I first started trading, everyone, you know, the consensus was that floor was about $6,000 per Bitcoin, right? Because once it went below that, they weren't able to make enough money to continue mining. But above that price, mining was profitable. So the good thing about proof of work is that it pegs it to the real world in some way and gives it an actual real world value because there's a cost. Now that cost comes at the expense of the environment, and it's also unfair for people with less resources. So I don't think proof of work is necessarily the best way to go, but it does have a real world tie.
Do you ever think when they talk about that environment stuff with crypto, like how much water does blizzards use in a day? How much is your cable? How much electricity? You know what I mean? Like,
well, that is true, but at the same time, like there actually is a ridiculous amount of energy.
Right, it's not. But the amount of energy, there's a ridiculous amount of energy used all over this country, this planet, and it seems like it's just called into question on crypto, like, and not other things.
I think
because they wanted, you know.
Well, yeah, because there are people that are people that want to crush it and use that as an excuse.
Right.
But I think the reason that the criticism is so strong is because there's not like a real world use for Bitcoin if it can't be a currency, right? It's a store. I mean, it's a store of value. It can be a currency, whatever, because people do spend it. It actually is a currency. It's just not a good one yet.
Right.
But the fact that what you're mostly doing is you're expending a huge amount of energy to create something to hopefully sell to it's like the next, what's that saying? The greater fool or whatever. Like you're when it's going up, you know, like what is it? The tulip bulb thing, the crash of the tulip bulbs in like the 1400s, 1700s, whatever it was. It's the same thing. They were just trying to give it to a greater fool and make money. And I think people are diamonds,
diamonds ought to be worth anything.
Oh yeah, diamonds have artificial scarcity. We can make diamonds that are basically indistinguishable from like so that whole market is probably going to have some problems at some point.
The Bears or Sears or whatever it is allegedly has just like factories, storehouses full of them. And they keep them to keep the price down.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. There's like basically a cartel of these companies that have that stuff, and you know you hold the whole thing about blood diamonds, right? It's like if you're in the cartel, you can kind of avoid that, but if you're a smaller diamond producer, they want to crush you, then they put the blood diamond people on you. Yeah. You know what I actually found out is kind of interesting about
mines in South Africa.
Yeah, it's mined with. Here's the thing: it's not just diamonds. Like things like cobalt are mined with like child labor and stuff. It can only be mined in certain places. So that
chocolate, that big thing with chocolate, you're not supposed to buy like Hershey's or Nestle's or any of that stuff anymore because it's child slave labor,
and it's destroying environments. Like they're destroying huge swaths of land in order to grow chocolate and stuff, and coffee and all that stuff.
That's why you're not supposed to buy avocados.
I mean,
because the Coke cartels were taking over avocado growing or something.
Really?
I don't know. Some shit I heard.
I know the mob was doing like olive oil and stuff. I don't. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. But back to the point. I think people don't see Bitcoin as like. See, we're talking about the actual utility of things like that, and we're looking into it. But for the average person, they're just seeing as like, number go up, maybe get rich, maybe crash.
Right.
So you're wasting a huge amount of, like, some of these Bitcoin mining firms are using the same amount of energy that like small countries do. And that's kind of the rag on them, is the fact that like so much, and over time there has to be more energy because the difficulty increases as time goes on with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, like the reward gets halved every 4 years. That's the halvening. So miners are going to make less over time, and the work goes up.
Should the computing power go up over time too, though?
Well, see, in theory it should, but like, was it Moore's law hasn't really been as true lately. Like,
really?
If you think, like, things are still advancing, but they're not advancing as fast as they were like 10, 20 years ago. Like, as far as the hardware side goes.
Well, could that just be like what we're seeing? That, the elites are keeping all their...
Well, I mean, there's always that kind of... Yeah, I mean, you never know. There's always that kind of thing.
They're all running around with jetpacks, teleports, and...
Oh, yeah. I mean, jetpacks are a thing. There are jetpacks.
That's not, yeah.
I mean, they're still like not. They're pretty dangerous though.
Well, yeah, like functioning jetpacks.
Yeah, ones in the movie like that are safe and all that. Anyway, crypto is under fire because of that, and it has issues. So let's see, what is the next thing that we're going to talk about? So decentralization, we kind of touched on that a little bit. Really, it's hard to do, but decentralization could be a good thing. There are still developers that control these projects, and changes can be made. So that's the problem I have with these people that say, oh, it's money that can't be corrupted, it can't be changed, it can't be tracked. Like, yes, it can be tracked. Yes, it can be changed. It can be forked. Bitcoin is capped at 21 million, and I believe other currencies have caps. But if they fork it, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And the way forks work are whoever has the majority of the hash power, whichever one is favored by more people, will be the one that becomes the successor. So if Bitcoin one day, like a chunk of the team says, no, we want to remove the 21 million cap and we don't want to make the rewards any harder to get because, this is getting way out of hand price-wise, we're going to do that. And the rest of the developers might say, no, we don't like it. So then they fork. And the public basically decides which one they like better. You think about Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, right? Ethereum Classic has, from what I understand, I don't know a lot about it, more of the original... It might be the original Ethereum, or at least closer to the original Ethereum. And actual Ethereum now is like Ethereum 2.0 or 3 or I don't know, whatever it is. It's gone through some changes. It's gone through some forks. So these things do happen, and we're not done with this. Yeah. So that's one thing I do want to warn everybody, is that don't get too excited about any specific project or anything people say about them, because this is still very early on, and a lot of changes could happen, right? We talked about regulation, attacks, forks, so it's like you have to be responsible with what you put in it. But I do think my advice to anybody would be, like, if you have like $20 or whatever, like let's say you don't have a lot of money, just throw $20 in a decent cryptocurrency and sit on it. You know what I mean? Just have something in these things, something you're okay with losing, because if these things really do take off, if, Bitcoin really does go to 1 million, then you're going to wish that you had that money in there.
Yeah, I think if you have like $20, you should follow one of our affiliate links in the description and get some free stock and put that into the crypto of your choice. Yeah,
which we're going to be posting our affiliate links below. Yeah. And that will work out for both of us, because we would get a free stock, you'd get a free stock. Yeah. It works, works for everybody. If you're going to sign up anyway, it's a way to go. You don't have to do that. I'm not trying to push that, but hey, like, let's work together on this thing.
Exactly. Well, okay, this is one thing I want to bring up again before we move on.
Sure.
The Splinterlands on the DeFi thing. I don't know if this exactly lines up with DeFi, but I didn't really know where else to put it. The next set they're coming out with is a mini set, and it's only gonna be able to be purchased with the SPS, the one that's got the 5-year distribution plan, but then it's limited. The one you get in the airdrop,
okay,
cryptocurrency. You can only buy it with that, and the money that's the SPS that's spent is going to go into a pool, and the players vote on what happens with it. They can burn it all. They can, donate it to charity, like whatever they want.
See, that's nice.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, especially considering it's like a finite thing. So the players could just burn it. Just be like, if we burn it, it'll be more valuable. And there you go.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about crypto, is there is that option. Anyway, so let's wrap this up real quick.
Get your ass to Mars, Elon.
Yeah, go to Mars. It's time to do it. Put up or shut up, man.
All right. I think I got most of my stuff that they're doing validator nodes, so
okay, talk about that. What do you mean?
I understand this the least about all the Splinterlands stuff, but it's the latest sale they're doing where basically they're just running these validator nodes to validate the transactions so they can expand the whole thing more. And and it makes it so that like the cryptocurrency will exist forever on the as long as someone's running a node. And then like I think the nodes, they're pretty expensive. Like I didn't have the money to buy them. I think it was like a couple grand. But I think they're kind of like the mining programs. They give like rewards and for all the transactions. But it's just the nodes are publicly available to everyone. They're expensive, but that's kind of the whole thing with the DeFi. Like this system is for anyone who wants to buy into it. And
Okay.
they're doing the best they can to make sure there's a return on that investment. Granted, they can't control it all, and the market's sway,
Right.
and we're in a down one right now. But like, I was really impressed on the game on how the crash happened and my assets went down, but then how like steadily it's been climbing up, and how it's really not tied to Bitcoin and Ethereum like a lot of these other things are that don't have their own utility.
Right. It's the crypto market has not really recovered. There have been little ups and downs. It's slightly up now
Certain
compared to where it
altcoins have
was.
been making little runs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, it really hasn't moved. Whereas your assets on Splinterland have come back a little bit because there's utility there.
And because they're constantly doing stuff. They're adding these validator nodes. They're changing their reward system. They're working on the bot problem. There's the whole Waka Flocka Flame thing where like Waka had this NFT thing he was doing and everyone was like, utility, you know, and so he teamed up with Splinterlands to kind of like justify his own thing, and they got some free publicity out of it, you know?
Right, it's like a mutual thing.
Right, because before they made his card part of it, it was like they wanted to charge people like $1,500, $2,000 for just like this little Waka headset you could wear in some chat room or something somewhere. And they're like, no, we need to add like something more to this. So they added like a summoner out of him, which is the type of card type in the game, and they made it like a legendary maxed out. And they actually sold out of them on the Splinterlands site and then tried to sell some on Wax and like barely sold any. And that's when I decided I was never going to pay for like a Wax wallet.
So what is Wax is a... What is Wax?
It's like another marketplace like Hive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got like its own wallet and it's very NFT heavy.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's one thing I definitely need to learn about more is the NFT market. I learned about NFTs early on, but I kind of dismissed them a little bit, you know, and they exploded with everything else, with the mania of crypto. And they will come back when crypto comes back to another bull market. Everything around... See, that's the thing with crypto, like, well, I guess any bull market. Anything connected to it will... The rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Yeah. NFTs, I think, for gaming, I think they're here to stay in gaming. I could be wrong, but I think that there's just too much potential there, and there's also too much need.
Yeah.
Too many people have expressed, like, I don't like that I can't transfer my assets. I don't like that I can get my assets taken away from me. I don't like I can get banned for saying certain things, and I'm not going to get to keep my gun or whatever, you know?
Right.
And there's too much universal need for it not to take off. Now, it might not be the projects I'm currently engaged in, you know, it might be something else. Might be one of the big boys coming in and buying it out, you know?
That's true.
All these things are possible.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah. You know, and that actually brings up a good point to kind of wrap things up on. With everything that's been going on in the mainstream media lately, censorship has been a huge topic. And that's one thing that crypto is striving to do is be, quote, censorship free. Now, it's not quite there yet, but it's going in that direction. And there is a definite need for that because I think the argument is certain people are being blocked not for saying terrible, terrible things, but for being associated with groups that do say those kind of things.
For either there's people that are being blocked right now on YouTube and having their archives deleted for being anti-government and virtually nothing else. And that's scary. That's Orwellian.
But ISIS is on YouTube with like horrible stuff, and that's fine. Right. You know, so there's a need. I mean, because censorship is not an easy thing to do, right? Like it's as much. That's one thing I don't think Elon quite understands is like how difficult it's going to be to moderate a lower censorship environment.
Because you can't just say nothing because then you have the algorithm turning everyone's grandma racist and QAnon and these things that run rampant because our base default is like tribalistic and not logically thought out. Like when we're clicking, it's all like
primal brain stuff. Yeah,
we're just getting that fix, and we're like, and then people believe things, and then there'll be things that just, like, are unbelievable, but it'll have like 500,000 likes. So like, are all these people wrong? You know?
Yeah, and you know,
they are, but yeah.
Yeah, well, they are definitely. Yeah, but that, you know, that's the thing. It's like we're navigating a new environment, and censorship has become a prime topic because it's so difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
So crypto is looking to go in the direction of fixing that problem. You know, you're going to have some kind of censorship because, you know, certain things are kind of universally accepted, murder and torture and stuff like that. So there has to be some level of censorship, but it goes too far. And like, that's kind of what happened. Like the old days of the internet, everything was open, right? See, when we were growing up and the internet was basically brand new, I should say the internet, the modern internet was brand new.
Just be porn on YouTube.
Yeah, there was no Twitter. You could say all kinds of crazy things, you know, like anything. But then eventually, as it became more popular and started having advertisers, then they wanted to clean things up a little bit. So to me, it's a really strange environment because it used to be that like, oh, anything you make, like my friend would come up to me and say like, oh, I made this crazy thing. What do I do with it? Like, dude, just post it on YouTube. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, you know, people aren't going to care if it's really crazy. But then as it became popular, there was this need to do it, and now we're kind of in between, right? Because we're clamping down censorship too hard. I think that's kind of what's happening. We went from not having enough censorship to like you could see beheading videos and porn and stuff on YouTube to having so much censorship that like good points are being pushed off. Like, you know, I don't want to get super political, but especially during COVID, right? Some of the early thoughts on COVID that turned out to be right were things that you would get banned for. Yeah. You know?
Well, and I totally agree. And I think a big part of it for me is that, okay, so like I don't like the over woke stuff, you know, but I don't want to hear about how stuff's too woke from Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell. Those are the people I want to listen to those arguments. And then on the flip side of that, I don't like misinformation. But I don't want to hear about misinformation from CNN and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Those are the people that should be listening to those misinformation arguments. And that's kind of my thing about the political thing, is there's so much hypocrisy that comes from both ends in their own way. And I think that most people see that.
Yeah. That was kind of the reason that this is going the way it is now, is because see, a lot of the people that you mentioned are older and of the generation where censorship had been kind of figured out, right? Like there was the main networks, they knew what their narrative was, they had a little formula that was kind of working for them, and even though that formula slowly changed over time and like the standards eroded a little bit and allowed for a little bit more freedom of expression in certain ways, there was still basically this one way everything worked, right? And they're of that ilk. But now a structure has emerged, the internet and blockchain and some other things that are challenging that power structure. So they're still using the tactics of the previous regime or the previous power structure in this new environment, and it isn't working quite right. So the reason you're saying like each one of these sides has to listen to the argument that they're complaining about is because they can't see it yet. They haven't figured out how to adapt to the new system, and they probably won't, because you know they're older and who knows how much longer they're going to be, and they're set in their ways.
If the conservatives could like compromise and realize they need to be a little more woke, they'd be better off in the long run. And if the Democrats realize that they're as guilty as misinformation as the Republicans are, they would be better off in the long run. But they just can't admit like any fault.
See, I think that's kind of like, that comes back to the ethical thing. It's like, basically this new power structure is allowing for a challenge to what they've been doing, and cryptocurrency or blockchain in general is a way to change things. Will it change things? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's key to blockchain more than the cryptocurrency itself. Like the crypto can never fully achieve its dreams as being like this replacement currency, but the blockchain will still have some utility and will still give us these like, hopefully will still give us these like projects. And I think that's what we're kind of on the new frontier of. You know? And maybe it won't be NFTs. Maybe it'll be something better than NFTs that utilizes the blockchain. But that's why I like the projects that I like, because I feel like if it is, they'll adapt. They're not just gonna. I don't think Splinterlands is just gonna throw in the towel. I would say where they're at right now, there's at least another 3 years. And hopefully I'll say that 3 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would be nice.
Yeah. Like,
I think there are some projects that are in that exact same vein. Like, can they adapt or not? And that you're right. I think that's basically going to be the deciding factor for the future is whether or not these new technologies can adapt to whatever the changes are, and whether or not the people involved in that will let it happen.
Right. And how is it going to bring more people in, too? Because I believe to succeed, like, Splinterlands is a good example of that, because, like, they did a thing to fix the bots, and so they lost a lot of active players because bots just stopped playing. So they need to bring more people in. And that's what we need. We need more people in this space. But we don't just need, like, FOMO. We need people that are coming into it because they have invested some time. You know, they have, and they do have an actual concerned care about it. They have a stake in the game. They want it to work for reasons beyond, like what you were saying with the Bitcoin holders, where they just want it to go up. You know?
Well, so that was the last thing that we never got to on the list was proof of stake versus proof of work.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about the nodes a second ago, I wanted to ask. So is that kind of like proof of stake? So you're saying the nodes can generate you money, but you basically have to sink a cost into them in order to get it.
Yeah, and it has to do with the validation of the transactions, and I don't understand exactly how that works, but yeah, it's like...
Yeah, that would be proof of stake. You put some coin up in order to validate transactions and then get the reward for doing it.
Right, and so you buy the node for like, $2,000 in SPS and vouchers or whatever. Vouchers is another thing they distribute that gives you money. And then, like, I believe it works where you just keep it on your computer, kind of like a bot, and it just runs these transactions.
Yeah, that's how mining software would normally work. So that would make... Okay, so that's basically just like their version of a miner.
Right.
So that's the argument right now is like proof of stake versus proof of work. Like they both have problems. Proof of work definitely benefits people with more resources. Proof of stake can be a little bit more democratic in the sense that if you have some skin in the game, you're less likely to try to take things over and cause harm. Right. And in order to be able to cause harm, you have to sink so much money in that it may not be worth it to do it anyway. Yeah. That's the thought with proof of stake. Like I don't know it well enough to know if that's, the end all be all. And I don't think it is. I think there are multiple ways to do proof of stake, but it seems to me a little bit better than proof of work in the sense that it allows, people like us to be able to go on there and have a fair shot. Like I'm not going to be able to buy a mining rig powerful enough to compete with like Bitmain, right? Bitmain is the biggest miner, like they're, or even smaller miners than Bitmain, right? Like any huge entity that has a server farm of thousands of computers running ASICs, miners and just crushing it. Whereas proof of stake is supposedly you add a little bit of collateral to put some skin in the game, and there's a random selection of who gets to validate the transaction. Right. So hopefully it's not just like the people with more money that get more, because there are some proof of stake currencies that do that, and that benefits people with resources. Right. You just add more money. Or the other thing you could do, which here's a thought I had. This is probably discussed somewhere, I'm sure, with proof of stake. But if it is random, right, and it doesn't matter how much money you put in there, what if you just paid multiple entities to have more entries in the game? More number of occurrences. That would give you an unfair advantage too, and you could use resources to do that. Right. So I don't necessarily think proof of stake solves this problem completely, but it's a step towards it.
Yeah, and that's what's great about this project is they're talking about all these things on the AMA when it comes to the validator node. And like how you were talking about, like I could sell off my Splinterland assets and buy one of these nodes. I just think I'll make more long-term play in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. There's more ways to make money.
Right.
Yeah, there are so many different ways to do it, and that's what I really like about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come on a lot of projects. There's going to be a lot more stuff. I mean, there are a lot of other projects. Like, I have a few written down here. Gods Unchained is basically Hearthstone, but you can mint the cards into NFTs and sell them for Ethereum.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Another use case. Yeah. There are so many use cases for these things that, as these interviews go on, I'm going to look into these a little bit more. I want to talk more about cryptocurrency and the markets in general. Yeah.
I want to do some live streams where, like, we talk while we're playing the games. Maybe we check out new games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of market for that. I mean, there's going to be so much coming to these channels in the next, year or so. We're going to be building things up. We're just kind of starting out. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, this is just, and that's one thing. It's not just the finance world that's developing and changing. It's everybody participating in it. You know, we're all learning this too.
Yeah.
I mean, even the people that are immersed in it and know a lot right now are going to change over time, and we're going to see how it goes. So I'm actually excited. I'm more excited for the future now than I was a few years ago, since I've been looking into this stuff.
Yeah, I think the next bull run is going to be huge. I think we're in the bear cycle right now. We might not be at the bottom. But the next bull run up is going to be crazy.
Yeah, we have, especially if crypto doesn't drop that much farther. I mean, if we have a starting place of the 20K, you know, if that like 20K line of the previous high holds, then we could, I mean, then that $100,000 target is definitely within reach. I think even, you know, more than that, but that's our next step is like getting to 100K, right? First it was 20 and then it was like 50. Now it's 100. Round numbers are kind of where we go. So there's a lot coming. We're going to see how this goes. SalomFishbee, thank you for coming in and doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it. We're going to do a lot more.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me.